Welcome to World Cinema Recap. The young couple moves into their new residence. The landlord left a quirky old refrigerator in the corner, which Gale tells Rob as he pulls a few things up. Rob finds it fascinating because the motor is above instead of below like modern freezers. He says it doesn't make sense to put the motor underneath, letting hot air rise up the refrigerator. Gale barely pays attention and simply agrees with Rob. She asks her spouse to drink after bringing out a bottle of wine. Rob eagerly opens the ancient fridge for ice. Despite the freezer being full with frost, he gets a cube of ice. The pair toasts their new life briefly. Rob spots something in the ice before he drinks. He shows Gale the ice cube out of the glass and asks her to validate its contents. Gale looks closer and is astonished like her husband. Gale examines the ice cube with a magnifying glass to corroborate her observation. Interestingly, it contains a speared miniature mammoth. Gale opens the freezer to see if there are more. What she finds when she rapidly removes the garbage is shocking. Rob looks in their fridge and says there's a lost civilization. The freezer has a working medieval miniature city. Everything inside moves quickly, as the little people continue about their day undeterred by the two giants hovering near their city. Rob agrees with Gale that it doesn't make sense. She explains that they're viewing an early medieval metropolis when woolly mammoths died out in the late Neolithic. Rob dismisses it and agrees with his wife to conceal his ignorance. Rob later buries the frozen mammoth in dirt. Gale cheers Rob up by saying it'll probably make good fertilizer. The two inspect the freezer again out of curiosity. To their surprise, everything changed significantly. During the Industrial Revolution, a medieval city became modern. Smoke from factories and railroads fills the chilly sky. The pair says they've been gone for 10 minutes, but the small people have experienced decades. Gale believes time goes differently in the freezer. Rob regrets missing the Renaissance as they watch the Industrial Revolution quickly. Two small guys sit near a structure under construction, and he wonders if people consider them gods. However, the men are mocking them as strange sky faces peering at the city. One man says he's sick of Gale's broccoli-stuffed teeth. Modernized buildings appear seconds later. Rob sees planes flying, and Gale recognizes them. Gale thinks the little humans have arrived as buildings rise. Rob says Starbucks stands out everywhere when he sees one. Just then, he detects something odd and looks closer. A missile lands in the city and explodes. Rob flees and falls after the explosion blinds him. Gale helps him up and urges him to calm down, but Rob panics and says tactical nukes are exploding in their freezer. Gale could scarcely keep a straight smile because Rob's face is tomato red. Gale gives her husband a gleaming toaster as the freezer bursts with big nuclear bombs, showing him how the heat turned his face red. Rob grumbles, but then he realizes the freezer condition worsened. While hearing screams, gunshots, and explosions, the pair stares at it. Gale seals the freezer and says the people can't outgrow war in 2 minutes. Rob asks what to do, and Gale suggests ordering pizza. Pizza is served for dinner while the pair waits for the situation to calm down. After an hour, Rob suggests checking the freezer. He wishes the small people could reconstruct their city, but Gale gently encourages him to accept the likelihood that they didn't. Rob opens the freezer anyhow. The freezer flashes with towns and flying cars, surprising them. Gale says it resembles the Emerald City, but with less emerald and more technology. Rob exclaims about how wonderful everything is. When a building appears in front of them, Rob comments that it looks like an adult toy. When everything worsens, a huge pyramid appears in the future city. It lights brilliantly and uses bridge power. After becoming a diamond-shaped fortress, it eats the city and bursts into an energy ball. The beautiful energy explodes like a supernova, showering Rob and Gale's kitchen with light streaks. The magical light captivates them. During this time, little people seem to have mastered time and space travel. The light streaks return to the freezer, form a sphere, and disappear. Confused by what they saw, Rob and Gale lose their smiles. Rob wonders if the small people will return, but Gale doubts it. Therefore, Rob mournfully pulls the refrigerator's plug, recognizing that the tiny beings will never return. Gale holds Rob with reassurance, knowing he likes little people. After closing the freezer, she calls it a day. Tomorrow, Rob pours and gives Gale a cup of coffee. Both are curious about the small civilization in their freezer without speaking. In hopes that the small humans are still alive, they open the freezer again and find cold mist pouring out despite being unplugged. In another glacial era, primitive sapiens eat a brachiosaurus. It appears that life in the freezer has reverted to the prehistoric era. The Tyrannosaurus rex arrives with a roar, alerting humans. As a dinosaur bites one, humans flee. The final human falls as the T-Rex approaches to kill. Many call the freezer a pocket universe that reveals how life evolved to leave reality. Some may assume the freezer ended their universe, but it might also mean the microscopic humans found a new dimension. The number of times this life cycle occurred in the old freezer, and if it consistently happens the same manner, are unknown. The previous owners may have witnessed life grow and perish, getting bored and leaving the remarkable freezer. The show never revealed who started life in the freezer, although its studios. God, Serengeti. Episode May. Elephants cross a field on a table in a strange man's study. The old man ignores this because he's reading. Jeffrey, his butler, asks how the book is, and he says it's too technical and likes chaos. A black hole recipe from the book still appeals to him. He smiles at a tiny man stroking two sticks in his pocket universe. The old guy is furious when the Homo sapien makes fire. He laments that he didn't say those folks could do it because he's supposed to give fire. The current moment is over 200,000 years before they should give them fire, says Jeffrey. Since the elderly man instructs Jeffrey to put out the fire, the butler blows upon the table, providing the wind that extinguishes it. Still furious, the old man orders Jeffrey to return them to their caverns. The butler obeys, so he has the elephants stampede at the humans, forcing them to hide. After it's over, the old man is still mad and plans to diminish the small beings' minds to prevent them from making their own decisions. Soon later, Homo sapiens leave the cave to dance in the rain. Jeffrey informs him that they haven't stopped the drought, so the old man instructs him to water the parched plants. Happy to oblige, Jeffrey sprays water on the table, causing the field to rain. He says that God is kind as Homo sapiens celebrate. The old man laughs at their joy and instructs his butler to spray more water. New plants grow in the little field as Jeffrey does so. He's had enough pleasure, so the old man tells Jeffrey to release the plague. The butler hesitates, but the old man insists on finishing this game. Jeffrey steals a nice bottle from an old box out of necessity. Jeffrey sprays this on the Homo sapiens with wrinkled brows, and one by one, they collapse as they breathe their last. Before reading again, the old man watches this from over his book. The creation myth shows God as kind and unforgiving. He gives the thirsty beings on his table water but kills them when he's done looking. Love, death, and robots, Ice Age and God Serengeti gods are their own. Rob and Gale observe life thrive and die without assistance, feeling pity for the civilizations they see. The other shows a more involved God who treats his table's lives as entertainment he can disregard.